Chicago-born rapper Lil Durk appeared before a federal judge in Florida this morning.
Hip-hop artist Lil Durk, who was born in Chicago, appeared before a federal judge in Florida this morning. The court date finally arrived and Lil Durk had to face the judge. The rapper, who is now facing charges related to a murder for a hire plot, had everyone talking in a twist that nobody had anticipated. Durk allegedly snitched on his top shooter, the one involved in the attempted hit on Quando Rondo. The same Durk who built his entire reputation on loyalty and street codes flipped the script. So what will this mean? For his representative, will Durk truly return to the rap game and talk his talk now that everyone knows he broke the code, or is this the start of the end of his tenure as one of the most respected voices in hip-hop? Stay tuned for all the details of his court appearance. Lil Durk's situation has taken an unexpected turn, and there have been rumors that he may have flipped on one of his most trusted shooters. The team he built has always been about loyalty, but now that loyalty is seriously questioned, prosecutors are looking. Grant, also known as Vonnie, was a key player in the murder for hire plot at Sea London. The feds suggested that Durk might have thrown Grant under the bus to protect himself. Grant wasn't just another OTF member. Prosecutors say he flew into Los Angeles on a private jet prepared to handle business. Once there, he reportedly set up hotel rooms for the crew, purchased ski masks to keep everyone anonymous, and provided 2 luxury sedans to make moves. But the most important thing was that Grant. Crucial detail, he allegedly provided the crew with firearms, including a fully automatic machine gun. Grant was deeply involved, and his association with this case raises questions about how his name ended up at the top. The situation becomes even more murky when you consider that the other players involved, Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Bryan Lindsay, and Asa Houston, were all members of the crew that prosecutors claim stalked Quando Rondo and his cousin Savia Robinson throughout Los Angeles from the time they landed in. The feds are presenting strong evidence that the group followed Rondo's Cadillac Escalade from a dispensary to a clothes store all day before making their move at a Beverly Center gas station. Houston allegedly parked the getaway car while Jones, Lindsay, and another unnamed associate opened fire, killing Robinson in a hail of bullets. San Diego was on a mission that Durk himself funded and organized, but now that Grant is in the hot seat, people are wondering if Durk may have given up information to deflect attention away from himself. The streets are brutal and loyal, and OTF has always been a cornerstone of its identity. However, if Durk actually did name-drop Grant, it would mark a shift in everything. OTF stands for Grant, who is known for his role in keeping the operation running smoothly. Prosecutors say this was a calculated hit planned by Durk but executed by his most loyal enforcers. However, with Grant now singled out as a top defendant, some are speculating that Durk's legal. So the idea that the OTF mastermind could turn on his own shooter was something no one saw coming. Durk stood in court with his reputation, career, and freedom hanging in the balance. The rapper pleaded not guilty to federal charges in connection with a murder for hire plot that prosecutors claim targeted his rival Quando Rondo. The courtroom was confused not only because of this, but also because the team may be using Grant's alleged actions to paint Durk as less involved, possibly in an attempt to reduce his own sentence. The charges against Durk are serious. Without a doubt, they include conspiracy to commit murder for hire and firearms violations, each of which carries a life sentence. Durk's courtroom appearance was measured and almost solemn as he entered his plea. He didn't deny the charges outright, but instead gave what many have interpreted as a veiled apology. However, the question is, who was Durk truly apologizing to? If there is any truth to the rumor that Durk gave up important information on his top shooter, that apology may have been directed at OTF because the feds have laid out their narrative like a blueprint: flight records, credit card transactions, and even text messages that allegedly tied Durk to the operation, which is particularly damning. However, there are rumors that the case may have been about something deeper, such as the fallout within his own circle. With Grant at the center of the case, some are wondering if Durk's apology was an admission of betrayal rather than guilt. Did he give up Grant's name to protect himself, or is the federal narrative just another ploy to divide and conquer? Prosecutors claim that the text, which was purportedly sent by Durk Reeds, was a direct attempt to cover his tracks. However, it also raises questions about how much of this came to light and why. It's a contentious angle that blurs the boundaries between artistic expression and real-life repercussions. But the inclusion of lyrics from Durk's 2022 song Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy as evidence that he used LPB's death to fuel his artistry and profit from violence paints a picture of someone who, in the government's eyes, might have used his platform to glorify and capitalize on street life. Durk's fiancée, India, came into the spotlight in a big way. India, who is well known for her robust social media presence and her steadfast support for Durk, was seen outside the Miami courthouse following the rapper's most recent hearing. Her presence was a clear indication that she is not leaving, regardless of how serious the accusations become. India has been by Durk's side throughout it all. The two have been engaged since 2012 and have a daughter named Willow. Their relationship has been a prominent part of Durk's public persona and is frequently featured in. Fans immediately took notice when DJ Academics shared a picture of India leaving the courthouse. Dressed simply but confidently, India appeared ready to face whatever came her way. Some speculated that her appearance symbolized her role as the backbone of Durk's life, keeping it together as the weight of federal charges looms over him, while others said that her appearance symbolized his music and social media posts as a symbol of loyalty and love. However, with Durk now embroiled in a legal storm, her support is being put to the test in ways no one could have predicted. Her courtroom appearance added a personal layer to the proceedings, reminding everyone that behind the headlines and charges is a man with a family, a fiancé, and a young daughter for fans. It was a moment that humanized the situation, demonstrating that while Durk may be fighting for his freedom, his family is fighting right alongside him. However, reports also indicated that two of Durk's co-defendants had. The fact that Durk's father entered the courtroom to support him in the face of these serious charges speaks volumes about their bond. But what truly caught people's attention was Durk's statement of support for his father, which provided a rare glimpse into the personal side of the Chicago rapper, who is now embroiled in allegations that could cost him money. This move signals that the case is moving full steam ahead, with federal prosecutors ready to build their narrative. In a case that has been anything but human, Durk's father, who has always been a quiet figure in the background, unexpectedly showed up outside the Miami courthouse walking alongside Durk's well-known lawyer, Alex Ubetta. He stood tall, demonstrating that family loyalty is just as strong as street loyalty. Durk frequently raps about writing a heartfelt message in which he states that his father has always been the foundation of his family member who has lived on the streets but has always upheld his morals. His support for Durk now means everything. However, it's important to remember that Durk's defense team has been preparing for what is expected to be a high-stakes trial, and his father's appearance in court serves as more than just emotional support. It serves as a reminder of the values Durk was raised with, values that may be relevant to his defense. It remains to be seen if this display of family unity will have an impact in the courtroom. As the legal battle intensifies, all eyes will be on the rapper, his family, and the team's efforts to keep him out of a federal prison cell. However, let's face it, Durk's past isn't exactly spotless. The courts could look into his prior offenses and use that to link this to his 2011 crimes. Durk, then a young artist attempting to forge his own path, ended up in deep water after he was found in possession of a loaded nickel semi-automatic handgun with a defaced serial number. He faces charges after a man was shot outside the Varsity Inn. In February of that same year, a key moment in Durk's legal history unfolded when the man who survived the shooting incident in question turned himself in to the police. His arrest initiated a chain of events that would highlight the challenges Durk faced growing up on the tough south side of Chicago, where violence and crime were an ever-present reality. The gravity of Durk's situation was not lost on anyone, especially as his legal woes began to accumulate. One of the most notable charges Durk faced stemmed from his possession of a firearm with a defaced serial number, a serious offense in itself. In a situation like this, there's no leniency. The law came down hard, and Durk's legal team soon realized that the stakes were high. Facing the prospect of a full trial, Durk eventually reached a plea agreement in 2012, admitting to one count of aggravated unauthorized use of a weapon. The court handed down a sentence of 1 year in prison. At the time, Durk was still trying to build his career, and this setback was a blow to both his personal life and his burgeoning music career. However, this setback didn't slow him down for long. Just 2 years later, in 2013, Durk found himself in another legal predicament, this one seemingly straight out of a movie. During a police raid, he attempted to dispose of a loaded handgun by tossing it into a car as officers approached. The move, though swift, wasn't enough to escape the law. The weapon was recovered, and Durk was arrested again, facing even more serious charges. This time, his status as a convicted felon elevated the stakes considerably. The fact that he had already served time for a previous weapon-related conviction made the charges much more severe, and the possibility of a longer sentence loomed over him. Durk's mounting legal issues were clearly starting to take a toll, but what made his situation even more remarkable was that he wasn't just another young man caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Despite his legal struggles, Durk was also focused on his music career, and his ambition and talent were undeniable. Even while dealing with the weight of his personal troubles, he continued to make strides in the music industry, showing a resilience that set him apart from many others facing similar challenges. It was clear that Durk wasn't just trying to survive the system, he was determined to thrive in it, carving out a space for himself as an artist with a powerful voice. However, the cascade of legal troubles didn't stop with these two incidents. In 2019, Durk found himself involved in a lawsuit connected to a canceled concert. The rapper was booked to perform at Nassau Stadium in the Bahamas, but the event never took place. The concert was supposed to be a major opportunity for Durk, a chance to connect with fans on a global stage. Instead, the lawsuit, which amounted to a whopping $350,000, became yet another piece of his growing legal puzzle. According to the promoter, the story of Lil Durk's legal battles begins in an almost cinematic fashion with a police chase that would mark the beginning of years of turmoil. The police were originally pursuing another individual when they spotted Durk, who quickly fled the scene, dropping a gun under a car as he ran. He didn't get far, however. Durk managed to sneak into a nearby house, and when police caught up with him, they found him sitting on a couch, seemingly unfazed by the chaos that had just unfolded. Despite his calm demeanor, the weapon was recovered and Durk was charged with serious offenses. They had done their due diligence before booking Durk, contacting his team to ensure there were no potential legal hurdles that could derail the show. But just as the concert was nearing, Durk found himself facing a major legal issue, one that was quickly spiraling out of control. At the same time, Durk's career trajectory was being impacted by these ongoing legal issues. He had positioned himself as a talented and ambitious artist capable of rising above the violence that had surrounded him growing up in Chicago. He had the potential to speak for his community beyond the headlines' crime and chaos. Yet these early arrests and legal entanglements set a tone that followed him for years, influencing both his music and his personal life. The incidents fed into the narrative of Durk's rise, a story that would play out in the media and on the streets, adding layers of complexity to his public image. The duality of Durk's persona, ruthless in his music, but often struggling with the very realities he rapped about, became part of his identity. In 2019, things took another turn when Durk was charged in connection with a shooting incident in Georgia. The case further complicated his career and reputation as he faced accusations of firing a gun from a moving vehicle during an alleged robbery. The incident in Atlanta further tarnished his public image and presented a significant challenge to his music business. The shooting case was not just another legal issue, it was a matter of high stakes for both Durk and his team, as promoters were left in a difficult position. According to those involved in booking Durk for events, they had thoroughly researched his background and had been assured by his team that no legal issues would interfere with the shows. But when the shooting charges came to light, the situation became far more complicated, leaving promoters scrambling and facing the potential fallout from the controversy. For Durk, this was yet another example of how his legal struggles had become intertwined with his career. At a time when he should have been capitalizing on his growing fame, his legal battles made headlines just as often as his music. And while these issues continued to pile up, Durk remained resilient, continuing to push forward with his career in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. His ability to survive and adapt in the face of such adversity has become part of his story, one that is still unfolding as he navigates the complicated intersection of fame, street life, and the justice system. On top of the initial fee paid, Ariel Mitchell, Durk's lawyer, has responded to the lawsuit, calling it frivolous and accusing the promoters of failing to obtain the required visa for Durk to enter the country. Mitchell says the entire lawsuit is a cash grab to take advantage of the fact that Durk was recently cleared of the 2019 charges and that it was just another chapter in Durk's ongoing legal battle. The lawsuit was filed for $350,000 for breach of contract, claiming they were left in the dark with no show and no refunds. The promoters claim that Durk's actions or lack thereof cost them a lot of money and reputation, and if they win in court, it will be another financial setback for Durk at a time when he is already struggling to balance his career and his past. As his music continues to top charts and his influence in hip-hop grows, the shadow of street life and legal entanglements keeps creeping back in. Durk once famously told a judge that he would never again set foot in a courtroom with A. The trouble began on a seemingly ordinary day when a Chicago gang task force arrived at a house where Durk was allegedly investigating a homicide. However, rather than directly linking Durk to that case, officers reportedly discovered something else when they saw him in the kitchen with not one but two firearms in plain sight, a Springfield .45 packing 13 and a Glock .45 with 11 live rounds. The sighting was sufficient for the officers to intervene when asked about the firearms, Durk allegedly gave his streetwise defense, claiming that his operations were constantly attempting to lift his ban. Whether he did or not, he asserted that the report was true and that the charges against someone with a prior felony conviction were also true. It was during this case that Durk famously made his courtroom vow, boldly declaring that he would never again appear before a judge. You can put a capital N4. He had never stated that he was officially ending that chapter of his life, but in Durk's world, things rarely end happily. At the time of this most recent arrest, Durk was almost finished with his parole for a previous conviction related to an arrest for aggravated unlawful use of a weapon in 2011, which had already enhanced his reputation as someone who has one foot in the streets and the other in the studio. Despite all the hits and accolades, however, the weight of his past keeps drawing him back into The capital N he once promised now feels like it stands for never say never. Durk's past outside the varsity, with that case hanging over his head. Bahamian immigration allegedly denied him int, and the concert never happened. This is where things get complicated because according to his promoter, they gave Durk's team $24,000 up front and invested even more in billboard advertisements and the works, expecting Durk to sell out the stadium. However, when he was unable to do so, they said he not only kept the deposit but also allegedly demanded an additional $200,000 to reschedule the show. Is catching up and it's bound to hit his career. Rapping about the streets is one thing, but now he's facing real life. This is a legal drama in a courtroom that he is familiar with, but it feels heavier for someone who once declared he was done with courtrooms forever. This turn of events almost feels like a cruel joke. Repercussions of severe backlash. Even his local Heroes Foundation, which assisted in elevating Durk's standing in his town, is now severing links as his world continues to fall apart. Only a few weeks before, the rapper was honored with city keys from Bellwood and Bellwood villages, which are close to Chicago, in recognition of his work via the foundation. However, all of that goodwill vanished as soon as Durk's name made news for reportedly planning a hit song on Quan. The consequences have been quick since Katrina Thompson, the mayor of Broadview, wasted no time in taking away the rapper's honorary key to the city. "We value your presence in the village and thank you for it. Here's your key." While acknowledging that everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty, she made it clear in a strongly worded statement that the village expects its public partners to uphold uncompromising standards of behavior. She also noted that the court of public opinion functions differently in her community, with residents expecting better from those they look up to as role models. The decision was made in the face of growing criticism. Some others questioned the choice to recognize Durk in the first place even prior to his imprisonment. Comments on social media suggested that local heroes, such as educators, first responders, or community advocates, should have received the keys instead of a rapper with a well-established connection to street lighting. The leadership of Broadview was forced to separate themselves from Durk and his group as a result of the arrest, but it doesn't end there. The charity that had assisted in funding scholarships, providing resources for underprivileged youth, and launching initiatives aimed at reducing gun violence, the Neighborhood Heroes Foundation, a cornerstone of Durk's efforts to give back to his community, also appeared to be on shaky ground. Because of its association with Durk, it is now a target of criticism, threatening to undo all the good it has accomplished. The irony here is heavy. The allegations against Durk paint a different picture, one that is difficult to reconcile with the image of a community leader. The timing couldn't be worse for Durk, as reports indicate that an OTF member may have flipped on him while wearing a wire and providing information to federal agents. Durk's work through the foundation was supposed to demonstrate that he had turned around and moved past the violence and chaos of his past too. It had become a symbol of hope. Durk's world has completely changed, and it's not only because he was charged with murder, he's also dealing with the true jaw-dropper. OTF Jam, a long-standing member of Lil Durk's inner circle, has reportedly turned informant, according to court records and various reports. The news has rocked the foundation of Durk's crew, OTF Only the Family, an organization built on the pillars of street loyalty and brotherhood. For a member of the crew to betray Durk like this, especially someone with a history like Jam's, is a betrayal that cuts deep. Jam, who served 12 years in prison for attempted murder before being released in 2022, has now allegedly spent years wearing a wire for the government, gathering crucial evidence against the very people he once called his family. This kind of treachery is a devastating blow to OTF, a group where trust is everything and loyalty is valued above all else. Jam's cooperation with law enforcement reportedly led to the exposure of key details that could have serious consequences for Durk's freedom. Jam's decision to flip is not just about providing random pieces of information, according to reports. He specifically implicated Durk in planning certain schemes, tying the rapper to activities that could potentially threaten his future. The authorities didn't just stumble upon this case. Jam's insider knowledge seems to have played a significant role in piecing it together. It's a betrayal that is almost impossible to overcome, particularly in a world where loyalty is often seen as sacred. The situation has only worsened with the public fallout that followed. Durk's relationships, both personal and professional, seem to be unraveling. Even figures who once supported him have begun to distance themselves. The mayor's severing of ties with his foundation is the most obvious example of Durk's isolation after this scandal. The rapper, who once represented a bridge between street life and community upliftment, is now struggling to maintain his standing in both worlds. This loss of support is not just a personal blow, it threatens to damage Durk's reputation as someone who can unite the streets and the community for positive causes. Durk's efforts to redeem himself and separate from his troubled past now seem more futile than ever. In the past, he worked tirelessly to prove that he had grown and was committed to making positive changes in his life. His charitable works, his music, and his public persona were all part of a larger narrative where Durk sought to overcome the obstacles of his past. He was at one point seen as a figure who could rise above the violence that once defined him, using his platform to elevate others. But now, with his inner circle crumbling and Jam's betrayal making headlines, it calls into question whether Durk's attempts at self-reinvention were ever enough to escape the shadow of his past. Perhaps the truth is that the weight of his history was always going to catch up with him eventually. The ripple effects of this situation extend far beyond Durk's personal life. They also threaten to undo much of what he has worked for in his career. As the lawsuit progresses and the details continue to unfold, his brand could take an irreversible hit. Durk's reputation, carefully built on authenticity and loyalty, is now in jeopardy. His music, his public image, and his business ventures could all suffer as a result of this scandal. It's not just a matter of his career taking a hit, it's about the potential erosion of his influence and the trust he built with fans, collaborators, and the communities that supported him. Durk's brand, which has always been synonymous with authenticity and loyalty, is facing its biggest test yet. Collaborations with other artists, sponsorships, and endorsement deals could all be affected as this scandal continues to unfold. Even fan support may dwindle as they wrestle with the image of Durk as a betrayed leader and a figure caught in the fallout of his own inner circle's actions. The music industry, known for its cutthroat nature, is watching the situation closely, and the consequences could be severe for someone like Durk, who has built his career on staying true to his roots and his community. For Durk, this situation is more than just a legal problem, it's a challenge to the very foundation of his career. While his team may try to spin the narrative in a way that salvages his image, the damage to his reputation may already be too extensive. The loyalty and authenticity that once made him a revered figure in both the streets and the music world are now under a microscope, and the fallout from this betrayal may be more than even Durk can weather. Whether or not he can bounce back from this crisis will depend on how he manages the storm that has been unleashed not just by Jam's betrayal but by the public's shifting perception of him. Whether he fights his way out of this or faces more consequences, it feels like uncharted territory. It is evident that the court of public opinion may be just as harsh as the actual courtroom. From street feuds to federal accusations, the events leading up to Lil Durk's arrest resemble a hip-hop saga transformed into a courtroom thriller, with the stakes greater than ever for the Chicago rapper. The unfolding events have the potential to change history in addition to endangering his freedom. The story begins with the tragic death of King Val in 2020, which reverberated throughout Durk's circle and sparked long simmering tensions with Quando. For someone who built his empire on street loyalty and unadulterated authenticity, this moment may be his hardest test to date. The murder of Rondo's Camp King Von wasn't just personal for Durk, it served as the impetus for a sequence of events that, according to the prosecution, developed into a planned revenge scheme. Fast forward to August 2022, when Rondo's cousin was killed in the streets of Los Angeles. According to LPO officials, this was a well-organized attack that was connected to Durk's gang and just the family. By October 2024, the feds dropped the hammer. Although Durk and 5 OTF associates were arrested, the charges against them have the legal weight of seismic murder. Durk's team may argue that he is innocent, but the evidence prosecutors claim to have financial records, explicit texts, and a paper trail linking him to the operation could be devastating in court. The timing couldn't be worse for Durk's career, as fans were eagerly awaiting new music collaborations and tours, but now, with the possibility of a trial that could last months or years, for hire isn't just any crime, it's one of the most serious in the federal playbook. Convicts in these cases often mean life behind bars with little to no room for leniency. Stepping away from the game for too long puts Durk in danger of more than just losing his fan following and industry contacts. It may also lose him the momentum he has built over the years in a field where consistency is crucial. Prolonged quiet can be a career killer. Lil Durk's much-anticipated album Deep Thoughts has officially been put on hold, and the ripple effects of this delay could be far more impactful than anyone initially anticipated. Originally slated for release on October 18, 2024, and later rescheduled for a tentative release date of November 22 on streaming platforms such as Apple Music, the album's release is now uncertain. Although Durk has yet to offer any public explanation regarding the postponement, it is already causing a significant stir among his fans and industry insiders alike. For an artist of Durk's caliber who has maintained a steady rise in popularity and influence over the past several years, a delay of this magnitude is more than just a minor setback. It could have serious ramifications for his career trajectory. Fans have been eagerly awaiting Deep Thoughts ever since the rapper teased its impending arrival. With early releases such as Moonlighting Maine and rumors circulating about potential collaborations with artists like Huno, the anticipation surrounding the album was palpable. Durk, who is best known for his gritty lyrics and ability to capture both personal vulnerability and street authenticity, has managed to build a loyal following that has been captivated by his music for years.